Hey, thanks for stopping by. Health and happiness to you. I'm Skol, and today we're going to talk about an interesting topic. This is the 1,000 carry club. Each of these knives I've carried in my pocket at a minimum of 1,000 times, 1,000 days in my lifetime. Each one has been in my pocket for at least 1,000 days. I know this one over 2,000. One of my very first pocket knives. And this is a neat idea. I think I'd like to see some other YouTube celebrities maybe find this video and show us it's kind of like your life story, the 1000K Club. 3 years, that's about 3 years, 365 times 3. 3 years of carry. If you think about it, if you carried for 3 years, for 30 years, that would be about 10 knives if you rotated every 3 years. So that's what the idea of the 1000K Club is. And it kind of tells your life story of what you've carried in your pocket. Some people might rotate more and fewer knives might make the 1K Club. If you're older, you might have even more. If you carry multiple knives, you could have more. But not very many knives in an entire lifetime are going to hit the 1000K Club. So I'm going to go briefly talk about each one of these and how I got there. I kind of went through phases like we all did in our knife history. So starting off with my very first knife, I tried to look up recently, and there's actually not so much information available, not even for sure what country this was made in. Found some ideas that it looks similar to a Pakistan style, and other person said they thought Taiwan. It's called a Jaws 702, and there's other models of different sizes, like a 703, even much bigger, and a couple smaller sizes. And these were available in discount stores. So I actually remember in my memories seeing this hanging on the shelf and getting this pocket knife, which I carried from about 10 years old all the way through high school, a long time. This was my knife. So it's just a simple lockback with probably a pretty soft steel. And I've had this in my trinket box for quite a while, but I was able to go back and remember which one of my knives would have qualified for the 1000 carry club. And here's the very first one. And like I said, this would qualify for at least 2K club. So that's quite a big part of my life story of knife carrying. Now, just because these are your 1K carry club knives, you might have a lot of other knives nice knives in your collection, but you haven't had them in your pocket for 1,000 times. And I do have some examples. So back in high school, I got this buck titanium, but I felt like I wanted to keep it nice, something nice to have and keep nice. So I continued to carry the Jaws. And it's funny the name's Jaws because my car, I forgot that this said Jaws on it, but my nickname for my Dodge Charger is Jaws. So that's a little bit funny. But anyway, here's a titanium buck, and that I would have got that in high school. I also had another buck knife. So you might be carrying certain knives that you're willing to wear out, and then you might have other knives that you're keeping nice. When I just pulled this out, I always thought I didn't get a pocket slip until recently. And then I saw this and I was like, oh, I did have a slip the whole time. But then I looked again, and this is actually a belt loop. So this is a sheath, not necessarily a slip. And this is a standard buck 110 that I also had in high school, but continued to carry the one that I was willing to wear out. So I had some other nicer ones, starting to build up a collection. Then I went to a flea market, Trader's World, in Ohio near Middletown, and came across this karambit, and it says Special Forces on it, which is funny. And at the time when I got this, maybe I would have been in the Army already, Army artillery. But I carried this for at least 3 years, and it flips open real nice. It's a tack force. So, kind of your knife story. You think that you're a knife person because you carry a knife all the time, but you don't know what you don't know. So, at the time, I thought this was pretty cool and enjoyed carrying it for at least 1,000 times. And I think I might have gone back to the very same store years later, and then I saw this. I thought it was a pretty cool, like, urban camo stripe, and that's the main reason I got it, is just because I like that on the blade. And it's funny because I hadn't seen this knife in years, and in my memory I thought this had a gray handle and then had the black and gray blade, and so I was surprised when I looked at it that it had a black handle. So my memory wasn't remembering that right. And then I made this lanyard years ago, so I went through a lanyard phase, or that was it. I think everyone was going through a lanyard phase. There was some how to make lanyards videos were popular at the time on YouTube. And then this is a liner lock. So carried that for at least 3 years, and starting to watch YouTube, finding Nut and Fancy, and then learning knife lingo. He taught me some of the basic words I didn't know before, like choil and swedge, and maybe a lot of the other words too. So finding out more about knives, and then he would always talk about philosophy of use. And so at the time, I was thinking, philosophy of use, what do I want to carry? And I watched some of his reviews, and I remember he reviewed this one also, and I said, well, that's the one for me. So I went and got a cold steel tie light, and it had the wave technology, which was something new and different. So if you have this in your pocket, you can make this snag on your pocket as you pull it out, and it'll flip it open as you pull the knife out. You can go, I'm not doing a review of each of these knives, I'm just kind of talking about phases I went through. So then I had the tie light for several years, mainly thanks to Nut and Fancy. And at this point, I'm starting to become a bigger and bigger collector. And then I realized some of the knives I had in the past, I learned more about steel types. So now I'm looking at steel types. And now I'm in the Air Force. And they had a little bit of at one point they had the sage green boots when I got this. So kind of funny, I got this just to go with my uniform. So I was carrying this on active duty a lot for years. This is a Buck Vantage with the sage green G10 scales. And so that's 30V, so it's got a better seal now. And at the time I was going through a phase of I liked serrations, and I think that has kind of died out. Serrations were a lot more popular back then too. So you kind of go through phases. Maybe most Americans walking around are still in this phase, and they're carrying a flea market knife, and maybe haven't found YouTube yet to learn a little bit more about knives. But if you're here, you might be learning something and see how I went through phases. You might have gone through some of the same phases that I did. So this was my serrations phase. At the time I liked serrations, but now I usually don't get serrations, and they're actually not as available. So I think serrations kind of died out. Spyderco still does a lot of serrations, it seems. Next, kind of going up in value. They kind of get more expensive as time goes on too. This is a Benchmade North Fork, and I think this might be discontinued. I have the box right here. So it's the North Fork, and it's in S30V steel. And this had a lot of neat features. It might have been my first crossbar lock, maybe, but I did have some other Benchmades. It's got some jimping there and there. Out of all these on the table that I've carried, I kind of remember this being really fond of this one, or maybe proud of it, because it was so much nicer than I had before to carry a really nice knife with a nice steel and G10 handles with a cool pattern. And then OTFs became a new thing, or kind of new, or at least to me. I have several Microtechs. I got the Microtech Tro Odon from John Wick 2, and I got a normal Microtech Ultratech black one like he had in the first movie. So kind of a John Wick OTF phase. But then I went to a knife show. There was a Cobra Tech table, and I picked this one up. That was a lot cheaper than the Microtechs. So after I had a cheaper OTF, I actually was carrying some of the other Microtechs. But once I got this one that was a lot cheaper, I just felt like I could just carry this every day, and this became a go-to. It might have about 5 years worth. So out of all these, maybe this is getting closest to hitting the 2K club. And then one day I noticed there were some screws missing. I've actually lost 3 screws. And a lot of knives come with T6 similar screws. So I replaced it with an old beat up knife that I didn't care about. I just took some of the screws out of that, and they fit right in. So I replaced the screws. And I had been carrying it for who knows how long, missing screws, and just hadn't noticed that some of them popped out. Or maybe it had just happened recently, and maybe I did notice it right away. But all of a sudden, there were a few screws missing, and then I fixed it up with some new screws. And I do have some Loctite on the table in the other room. I probably should pop these back out again, put some Loctite, and pop them back in, and that should keep it from happening again. But 5 years it was still holding together, had never taken it apart, still haven't taken it apart, other than moving some screws around without taking it apart. So now that kind of completes out of my entire collection, which is over 200 pocket knives. These all qualify for the 1K club. So that's about 3 years in my pocket. I do have some contenders that are getting close. One is this old school K55K. These date back all the way to World War II. But why would something like this go in my pocket so often? It's because it's so thin. If I'm looking for something thin, this is about as thin and simple as they come, and light, pretty light. I can throw this in a athletic shorts thin, whereas athletic shorts aren't so good as far as not having like belt support, and you feel it in your pocket. But something so thin and light, I can pick this one up a lot. So it's not to the 1K club yet. This is one of 3 contenders that are getting close. The next one is the Cold Steel Carve. I've already done a review on this. This one has at least 2 years of carry, so needs another full year, another 350 days, and this will join the ranks. Watch my review, it's pretty good. This has some neat features. It's a Cold Steel Carve. And my last one that's a contender, getting close. So if I do a video update later, I carry this big one. It's a Cold Steel Frenzy big, like 5.5 inch blade. Yes, I do carry this very often. It's the third contender to joining the club. Uh, Carry this on dog walks a lot. We do daily dog walks with my husky named Saber, and I like to carry this one a lot. So there you have it. Haven't seen any kind of video about what do you actually carry. So I have 200 knives, but which ones have been in my pocket for at least 1,000 days? This is a significant part of my knife history. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'd like to see some other people, what they had for their life story of their knife carrying pocket history that made the 1000K club. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'm Skol, and always carry a knife.